think we lost Heidi.
Is Rob here?
Oh.
That's okay. So this is Julie in
Okay,
Utah.
so you're Julie. Anyway, I don't know why.
Well, welcome to Heart with the Hansons. I think Heidi will probably be calling back soon.
How can we help you today?
Well, I just had a question for Rob and Heidi, and I can just give you the question and then get off so they can get back on with you if that's what we need to do.
No, they should be able. They should be able to call back. I'm not sure. They should be able to call back. I'm not sure why they dropped, but that's okay. You can go ahead. How can we help?
Well, one of the questions that I had for them is Heidi had discussed using chiropractors with their daughter.
Yes.
And then Rob has discussed changing diet and routine and using alternatives and supplements and things like that. And the question I had for them is, are people negative with them in their approaches that they choose in using natural approaches and alternative approaches to health and well-being? And if they have had negativity, how do they handle that?
Okay, I think they're back on the line. Are you guys back on?
Do you hear us now?
Heidi's back. Heidi,
I can hear you.
I'm back. Yes, we're both back.
You know, that's an excellent question because that is a big problem. And really, you can't change the way other people feel. If you've got somebody who's prejudiced, especially, it's really hard when they're in your family. Mm-hmm. You know, when your mom or your sister or whoever that you really need to support you and to back you up in the choices that you're making is telling you that you're not doing the right thing for yourself, or especially if you're not doing the right thing for your kid.
Yes.
That's extremely difficult to deal with. And the one thing that I would say to this caller is don't expect you can change the other person because you're not probably going to. And just accept the fact that you're the mom or you're the dad and that you know what's best for your child. And how I respond to people when they say rude things to me like that is I say, you know what, I've just had the strongest feeling inside that that's the best thing that we can do. And if I can provide statistics, I will. I'll say, well, you know, statistically speaking, this treatment actually is the best one that, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say that. But really what it boils down to is you're the mom. And people can't truly argue with you when you talk about your feelings. When you say, I feel like this is the best, and it's my mother's tuition. And I always, you know, I throw out mother's intuition in there. And just know you can't change someone else. And try to have, you can only work on you. And so the thing that you can do is try to have confidence in what you're doing and just reassure yourself. And then also talk and spend more time with people who do think like you.
I agree.
Try to get into hanging out with people and making friends with people who do use alternative remedies, who do. In fact, I had a lady ask me, it was probably about 2 weeks ago, how did you learn all this stuff? How did you understand these things? Because she'd never heard of half of what I was telling her. I said, I hang out in that crowd. These people are my friends. These are the people who, and so because I've chosen to be around people like Kristen, you know, you and I have been friends for 10 years.
Yes,
you've helped me a lot over the last several years.
And you've helped me too.
And because I had a friend like you, these things weren't foreign to me. You know, because I had you on my side telling me and teaching me things that I didn't know before, it made all the difference in the world.
Oh,
so that's what I would say is try to get a different support group outside your own family. I know that's hard to do, and just be confident and just know that your intuition is right.
And if I could add something there too, briefly, you know, and you're going to reach, and people sometimes say things out of their best interest. You know, people think they know, and they have their own experiences. And if you try to look at it, possibly what I did for myself, even though I was frustrated beyond belief sometimes, I didn't have this problem with my mom or people in my immediate family, but I did have it with sometimes total strangers. You know, throwing stuff out at me, and I'm like, I don't even know you, but you know. It can be challenging, and like Heidi said, just know that what you're doing is right, and sometimes just, you know, smile and look the other way and do what you're going to do anyway, too, is another idea.
All right. Thank you, Julie, for calling in. Does that answer what you were looking for?
Yeah, that was great. Looking for support systems is, I think it's really, really empowering, I really appreciate all of that.
Was there anything else you wanted to ask, or anything else you wanted to know?
I think I'm good right now. I'm just really enjoying the interview.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm
Thank
glad
you
you
so
are.
much.
So we're kind of stumbling along here, but thank you so much for calling.
And continue to listen. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for taking the call.
All
Okay,
right. Bye-bye.
So, thank you guys. I don't know how we got dropped there. It does happen sometimes. You know, I want to talk about, before we do run out of time, I want to make sure that we have enough to cover. You are writing a book and talking about our spiritual connection and spiritual DNA. And I've been really excited to ask you about this, if you can share anything about the actual spiritual DNA part. What is it, this project that you're working on, and how can we find out more information?
I'm getting ready to publish it and put it on the website that you announced. But for me, I had a huge paradigm shift a few years ago, and it was actually because of a story about hypnosis.
Oh, and hypnosis.
Right up your alley. So back in 1951, there was a boy who was 16 years old. He was living in the UK, and he had this disease that was, I counted how many syllables. It was 15 syllables long. I cannot pronounce it, but it was a skin disease that caused his skin to turn as hard as a fingernail and get horny. And it was in his DNA. It was a genetic disease. So by modern science, that means it's not curable because that's who you are. It's your DNA. And there was a scientist that decided to do an experiment with him. And the poor kid, if he would move, his skin would crack and it would ooze and it would get infected. And he got kicked out of school because he smelled so bad from infection. So his life was total misery. And a scientist decided to do an experiment with hypnosis, and he hypnotized him, and this was all under controlled, an actual scientific controlled situation. And during the hypnotic time, he was suggested that your left arm is totally well. That's what he was told. And within 10 days, his left arm was totally well. All of the fingernail stuff fell off, and his arm was just fine. And so they started repeating the process with the rest of his body. But that was such a huge shift in my thinking, because I thought, his DNA changed. His brain made his DNA change, because he couldn't have had that happen if his DNA didn't change.
Oh, my gosh, Hypnosis is amazing. That subconscious is a powerful tool.
It is. And so I started thinking, okay, there's got to be more than what we understand scientifically. And in my church, in my religion, we teach that, we have these physical bodies, and then we have spirits that are God's children, that are from God. And I started thinking about physical DNA, and I thought, well, if we've got, and this is my own summation, if we've got physical DNA, then we've got to have spiritual DNA inside of there too.
Absolutely.
And I started wondering, how does that work? And if things can physically hurt your physical DNA, they've got to be able to hurt your spiritual DNA too. And I started experimenting with things and trying to learn as much as I could. And then I had friends and family who were happy to be my guinea pigs. And I started working on and observing if there was a way to help you through your own spiritual DNA, because that's the part of you that's from God. And
can I ask right there? Well, okay, explain to me now how. Now, this is when we're created in spirit form. We have our spiritual DNA as far as our medical DNA. So this is who we are as a spiritual being, correct?
Right. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay. Now,
and so I started working with friends and family who had different problems. Like, one was in just absolute chronic pain all of the time, and another person that needed with a learning disability, and then with muscle mass. And we actually started having phenomenal success.
Okay.
And so I thought, I'm going to write a workbook, and I'm going to start and to kind of have people to be able to go through the same process that we did. But I decided I wanted to start a blog because I wanted people just to have the information. If they were open to it, great, and here it is. And if you're not, then, fine. But there's more to it than our physical bodies. And we can't ignore who we are on the inside and think that we're going to be okay. Because if you have that incongruency, you have to treat the whole person.
Yes.
And so I became more concerned about our insides. And for my own healing process, I kind of went through those steps. First, I sought medical attention, and then I started using herbs and supplements, and I got so much better, but I couldn't stay well unless I was taking a lot of herbs every single day. Mm-hmm. And so from that point, I really needed to work on my thinking and work on the inside, you know, and see what in the world is keeping me sick.
Yes.
And why am I having anxiety attacks unless I'm, you know, doing everything that I can nutritionally to keep myself okay? And I realized it was who I was on the inside, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually that was causing the problem, because I wasn't willing to forgive things. I was having, you know, I was not letting go of things that needed to be let go of, not just not forgiving myself, but not forgiving other people. Mm-hmm. And so I was having these racing thoughts and just all these anxiety attacks in my head because I was imagining over and over again confrontations, reliving confrontations in my mind and then making up new ones.
Sure, sticking to our story, and we get stuck in that story process, and it just keeps going on, and we do make up stuff and add to it, and it just keeps, and then we don't even know what's the truth and what's not in the subconscious level.
And so I had that, and I had those things that I really, really needed to let go of. And then you kind of touched on this before, but it is so critical. I allowed my illness to define me. I allowed it to be part of my self-esteem, which I know sounds crazy, but lots of people do it. Somehow, in my mind, I was this amazing heroine because I was surviving critical illness and taking care of my children anyway, and I let it be who I was.
Yeah.
And that's not who I am. That is not who God meant for me to be. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't let go of that disease because it was like going to cause an identity crisis in me if I did.
Right.
And, you know, that, let me tell you, that's something that a lot of people go through because, and even when we go through that, you know, when I was in life coaching and hypnosis, you know, when I've been through my addiction behavior, you know, well, now that I'm not using anymore, you know, I'm not an addict, you know, I was an addict, now I'm not. Well, who am I? You know, I wasn't an alcoholic before, now who am I? Yeah, exactly. I'm so excited to read this information, and I did post your information on the show site, and I'm also going to put it on my website at Sacred Circle Ministry that they can get to it from there. I'm super excited because I believe in everything that you're saying completely, and I completely resonate with it, and it's so exciting. You know, and I wanted to ask Rob a question because Rob's been so silent. Us girls have been sitting here chit-chatting about all this. Rob, you know, I have to ask, you know, in the beginning we talked about, you know, statistics with divorce, and, you know, Leaf and we're our relationship recovery coaches. We work with people, you know, going through very traumatic times in their marriage. You know, we work with addiction. We work with people that have been abused, people that have a long-term illness. You know, and you know, we're reading, you know, men are 7 times more likely to leave their spouse, and divorce rates are 90%. And you had a wife and, you know, 5 children, with your newly adopted son. How did you keep this together? What was going on for you through all of this?
Well, you know, as far as keeping the family together, I think the most important thing is gratitude, and some people may chuckle at that as you know, we've talked so much about the challenges that we've had, but when I view my life and I view the understanding and the testimony and the witness that I have of who I am as a child of God, that God lives, and understanding the purpose of this life.
Right.
When I look at the wonderful spouse that I have, she's just not my spouse for this life. She's my spouse for eternity.
Yes.
And the wonderful children that I have, and the financial situation that I have, and blessings that I have, I'm more blessed than 99.9% of the people that have ever lived on the face of this earth.
Oh, my gosh, that's amazing.
I don't see the challenge of these, what I view as small challenges that I have to learn from, and going through these experiences really blesses me to help others. You know, I have the empathy, I have the understanding, I have the passion and the commitment to help others that are going through the same experience. You know, everyone in my workplace, they do give me a hard time, going back to the caller's comments of maybe some the negativity that it might exist when
Yes.
all the donuts that come into work or things like that I don't participate in, but then I get these people coming up to me individually that have their health challenges, wanting to ask me